is the RMR qualifiers. Open qualifier number 4 here in EU. And of course, this is the last chance to qualify to Rio. And we didn't really expect at this sort of stage to have Astralis with us. We're just about to get underway as Astralis get on with a fabled rematch against Los Kogutos. This is a game which in the third RMR, Astralis lost on Ancient. And of course, we're going now in towards Mirage to see whether they can turn things around. I'm Neokai. I'm joined by lovely Naomi Rizuki.
And I'm really excited for this one because, as most of you probably know by now, Astralis played in Blast a little bit earlier today. Did not have a great run. It was a very close game, but they did lose. So coming into this, the mental game, possibly going to be a little bit of a struggle here. And as we said, they have lost to this team before. This team has gate-kept them from a qualifier before, so this could be a tough one.
Oh, B-Rush coming through as well. Hefty Nay's going to come in for Los Kogutos. They're just flooded on towards the sides. Config's going to be good for one. Blamef's going to add to it as well. Already a decent trade coming through. Config in towards Get Right causing problems. He's going to find a second. Door down to Enzo, all alone. 1 versus 3, and this requires something monumental with the Glock. He's dancing around back pillar. He's been spotted out, and surely his numbers up. Damage dealt on towards Glaive as he's dropped to 16 points of HP. But ladies and gentlemen, I think it's going to be Astralis kick starting things unless Enzo can cause some further problems. Looking for more as well. Enzo's causing a couple of issues despite being 24 points of HP. You know, now what is a 1 versus 2? And Glaive only just 1 bullet away from death. As Glaive will find that final kill. Astralis to kickstart things.
I love how, you get this huge nade that comes through very, very early on. And despite that, Los Kogutos actually do relatively well to maintain some of that stability. However, at the end of it there, Astralis had really, really good control of that B site, so relatively easy to maintain. And this is going to be important. It's a good first round win that they absolutely need. Get that confidence boost going. And of course, now they're able to buy in quite nicely into this one. Whereas Los Kogutos, no plant means no money.
That's it, left down to a low buy for them. Now, of course, we do expect and hope of something from Los Kogutos on towards this map, but I can't expect too much into this round. Glaive for a 3-piece. P250 not going to find his target, and Blamef will clean things up. It's a flawless round here for Astralis as they go up to 2. So far, so good for them. A 2-0 start. As we mentioned, no bomb plotting towards the pistol meant for Los Kogutos, there wasn't really going to be too much of an investment coming in. So that was the expectation of that one pretty comfortably going the way of Astralis, and it did.
Yeah, very much to be expected, considering that Los Kogutos had literally nothing to work with into that round. But at least now, off the back of the 2 losses, they're able to buy in reasonably well. Of course, they have to... sacrifice isn't really the word. They're unable to get much utility thanks to the lack of funding. But they are on that T side. They're taking a nice, strong push up through mid. A lot of pressure being placed onto Astralis now, kind of forcing them back a little bit, trying to gain some of that early ground. And this is going to be an important round to win, but that's a rough way to start it as Config will get the round.
Swinging in, Config, Glaive on a piece. Mary at least going to find himself into a trade. Got jungle control too. And Farlick to follow suit leaves us in a very open opportunity for Los Kogutos to potentially find their first. Bomb will be planted. And I think for Astralis, this might even just be a save call. Keep hold of what they've got. Config going to try and make its way in towards jungle. Mary's going to fall, and that provides an opening. Numbers go in favor of Astralis.
I mean, this is still realistically doable. Cyclone on next to no HP here, and reasonably good weaponry for Astralis as well. Managed to pick up one of those AKs, so yeah, it looks like they're going to go for the reaggress, but Config gets caught out.
Enzo, with a 3-piece for him to finish things off. Los Kogutos' first round on the board, and well, I needed one at that, as I think, there's a real potential on CT side for things kind of run away from them. So at least, we can start to see that economy start to flourish. But for Astralis, that was technically still a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, it was a valiant attempt towards the end there. Didn't really have much util to use there. Couldn't block any of the sight lines. Los Kogutos do a really good job of just kind of mowing down the last few players left alive. As we come into this round, as you said, it was the bonus. So Astralis will buy in a little bit here again. Not all the way up with rifles. Obviously have to sacrifice some of that utility as well. But they're putting a lot more pressure here. Los Kogutos going for the B hit, get the first kill of the round, make their way in onto site, and Astralis now have to restabilize.
An advantage for the T side. Los Kogutos got a little bit of room to work with for them. For Astralis trying to retake in towards it, it's going to be quite difficult, and Flash going to come over. Farlick leading the charge, MP9 in hand for him. The priority at some point is to try and pick himself up an AWP. Mary's going to spray down Config. Bomb going to go down too as the post-barn set up. Blame has to provide something special. There's the first. Trade will come through. Numbers still favor Los Kogutos. As Mary's holding for the flank, in fact, they can't even get into his connected control as Mary's holding and waiting. Leg spotted. Damage dealt and Farley going to fall to the hands of Crasso. That even might be a save call. Blame F. And Zipnex, I mean, their long-term economy is not in a great state. I think they're just going to fall away here. Go for the save.
Yeah, unlike in the previous round, this is definitely not something that they want to kind of reaggress in onto. They don't really have anything to try and pivot off of. So, as you said, hold on to the little bit of weaponry that they do have, and hopefully they'll be able to do something into the next round. But looking a little bit dicey here for Astralis. We've got even scoreline, which doesn't seem too bad. But again, when you take a look at how much cash they have left here, it's not great. They're going to be forced down onto maybe some upgraded pistols, you know, barring the 2 guns that they kept from the previous round. So it's a difficult position here. This should be Los Kogutos getting another round win, and you know, off the back of the fact that they kept a few players alive in the last round, they're not going to have to spend a huge amount of cash. And there you see, not flush, but still looking good. They're definitely in the driving seat here, swapping things up again. And I like this, never hitting the same place twice, taking a swap up, change up, and keep Astralis on their toes.
Well, for Astralis, it's kind of an awkward round for them, but they haven't really fully invested around those 2 rifles. They've just gone for that P250 buy, WSPS, but the util coming towards top comp. Blame F just going to fall away. Doesn't really want to take that initial engagement. He knows how important it is to keep those rifles in play. And that tempo slowed right down. For Los Kogutos, this is one of those rounds that on paper should fall in their favor. It should be a third for the T side. They're going for that B hit once again. The USPS not going to find success as Glaive falls. Zipnex in for a double though, as his M4A1S is causing problems in towards backside. Zipnex still remaining alive is causing issues. And his Flame X is a ball of a double 2. He makes it a 3-piece. And Los Kogutos in a round where they were against just 2 rifles. It's them who fall.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly why you can't count out a team like Astralis. Despite the fact that they only had 3 pistols and 2 rifles into that round, they still managed to come out on top of it. Los Kogutos tried the slightly slower approach, and it seems like Astralis was ready for it, which was pretty impressive. Again, considering how Los Kogutos are constantly trying to kind of change up their approach from round to round, and yet Astralis still had a pretty good read on it. Now, looks like we're going to go again for that kind of mid-play with a split over towards B and some potential information gathering over towards A with a less than perfect buy. And given how the last round went, this could still end badly for Los Kogutos. Yeah,
Foliday's initial point of contact, looking for information in towards top mid. He can kind of rely on the fact that for Los Kogutos, they're not really going to have an AWP in play, or at least the kind of the ranged weapons. He knows he can rely on having a little peek coming through. Damage dealt towards Crystal, in fact, as Blamesh can afford to follow suit. That's going to open this round up potentially for Los Kogutos, boosting in towards bench. Config spotting the first light, will block the molly too as he falls back, as Farlig answers for one of his own. The trade will come in. Numbers brought level, not for much longer. Mary just nicely on towards Zipnex, and Config towards back pillar. Has to come alive here. He has to be able to at least buy some time, and there it is. There's the double for Config. Enzo and Mary gonna fall, and the numbers brought back in favor of Astralis. Now we can have a conversation about how Los Kogutos try and turn this in their favor, and it's not looking good. 1 player remaining alive, and for Astralis, I think it's gonna be chalked up to a comfortable 4th, and it is. Config sees things out. Let's take a 2-round lead.
Astralis have a really good control of the map there. You can see, I mean, this is probably why they picked into this map. We'd kind of been discussing, you know, well, where are they going to take us when we finally get into this map? You know, is it going to be Ancient again for that perfect reconstruction of the previous time that the 2 teams met up against one another? Would we try something different? And there were a lot of question marks when we saw Mirage come up, because it's one of those maps where pug teams can do better than what one might think. But you also have to bear in mind, because it's such a stratted into the ground map, a team like Astralis, they'll have this on lock. And I think that it's probably why they opted to push for this one.
It's coming in. Glaive and Blame F. Comfortable. I mean, it is just pistols. They do get themselves one. It's a consolation, a silver lining in what is so far looking like a little bit of a bad situation. It's a 5-2 lead, 3 rounds gathered up, and for Astralis, they're starting to pull up a much more confident showing than what we saw previously in the 3rd qualifier on Ancient.
Yeah, and especially given that Ancient has been a bit of a rough patch, if you consider again today's game as well against OG. So maybe they weren't feeling it for this matchup. But of course, as we've mentioned, it's last chance saloon for them. But now the AWP is on the field here. A massive nade will chunk down quite a lot of the Lost Cognitos HP here. Oh, and as they make their way through mid, that's a dangerous trade. It's kind of opened up the space.
Yeah, Krasnal Mary, what a piece. 4 versus 3. Config sitting in the smoke. He's waiting, but it should be Glaive who gets tested first. He passes the first, make that a second and a third. Comfortable. Config are coming for support. Glaive with a 3-piece and Astralis going to find themselves, at the very least, at a 4-round lead. Now, of course, again, a similar scenario that we were talking about earlier, where for Los Kogutos, they're starting to get to a concerning state where this is potentially getting away from them.
Yeah, like I was saying a little earlier, you know, this is a map that obviously Astralis are going to understand down to a T. So they're not going to be looking to make the same kinds of mistakes that you would see a lot of other kind of newer teams be making. So that was a pretty solid round for them. Again, it was an interesting one from Los Cogitos as well, taking a really, really aggressive push. And Astralis just shut it down. Great utilization of the smokes there to deny a lot of the sight lines. And of course, the spam through the smoke, always an absolute win. So Los Cogitos in a rough patch here in terms of weaponry, and it's just kind of, well, see what you can get and go next.
Well, you two will come down again. In the priority for Los Cogitos here is trying to find a bomb plant. Glaive's going to fall. Config and Blame F, though, do come alive. Config going to make it a second. Bomb will get planted. That was the priority for Los Cogitos, and now, of course, in 1 versus 3, you can't really expect Mary to find too much here. Tech 9 in hand. Will swing out. Going to find himself one. Looking for a second. Not going to be fouled. But to walk away with 3 kills and a bomb plant on what is essentially just a full eco of a pistol round, that is a real positive for Los Cogitos. And it gives them economy to work around. Now they can pick up an AWP.
Yeah, I mean, that was a solid round for them, as you mentioned. You know, getting a few kills there. They get cash for the kills, they get cash for the bomb plant, and they take a little bit of cash away from Astralis. Not much. Astralis still look just fine coming into this round, and you know they will be going into the next as well, regardless of what may happen in this particular round. But, as you mentioned, at least Los Cogitos able to kind of match some of that firepower. Not the AWP that you'd maybe been hoping for, but again, with them being on the T side, maybe they don't want to take those risks. They know they're up against Farleg. Rather, go with the rifles. They know that they can achieve something with that. We'll see if that is actually the case here, as Astralis left mid more or less open, giving a lot of space over to Los Cogitos, waiting for them to push in and just kind of stumble into their crosshairs.
Well, Config's in towards Sandwich. He himself can just kind of park up. The crossfire is set up to a degree. Now he's spotted. Peeks out. Dink will come through as well, but it's Krasnal and Glaive one apiece. Config and Blame F add to it. It's all so good for Astralis as Mary now left in a 1 versus 3. And he's going to fall. Unfortunately, not to be for Los Cogutos. This is already starting to get significantly out of hand. As far as they've guaranteed themselves a lead at the half already.
This really does feel like kind of setting a trap for Los Cogitos. As I said, they kind of leave mid very open. They don't even take a super aggressive stance on either of the 2 sites, really. They give quite a bit of space open. Maybe aiming or angling for a potential retake scenario, but invariably what happens is as Los Cogitos make their way in onto the point, Astralis just annihilate them. Okay, sometimes they do manage to get a plant down. We have seen that, but they seem to be leaning into a let them come. We'll circle them. We'll create crossfires. We're not going to, you know, overly extend unnecessarily where the CTs. We don't need to. And it works really well for them. Haven't really had the opportunity to see that AWP pop off as I would like to. I'm very much an AWP lover. But hopefully Farley can come online a bit more. He hasn't really been given a chance either. You know, he's chilling there towards mid, and Los Cogitos have kind of given up mid entirely. They've figured out maybe we shouldn't go where the AWP posts up.
Yeah, I think to be perfectly honest, as things have kind of recently been for Farley, the pressure's on his shoulders. The performances haven't been great. He's been kind of a real kind of highlight, or I guess you can sort of say low light for Astralis at times, you know, where a lot of question marks around him, especially with kind of the previous immaculate AWPers that Astralis have had. I mean, the comparisons towards Device become very, very clear, and it's tough, right? You've got to say for Farley, he's a young guy, new to kind of this level of gameplay, and for him to kind of be having those sort of comparisons and pressures put on his shoulders, I really do kind of feel for the guy. It's a tough mental game to play as well, of course, in the server. Hopefully, we can see him pop off a little bit, find that confidence early doors. You mentioned it was a little bit of a rough showing for Astralis earlier today in Blast. so far over at ESL, it's looking pretty damn good. 8-2, tempo down to a very, very slow point here. And you can start to see where, for Los Kogutos, they've realized that, yes, you know, their aggressive playstyle worked on Ancient because Astralis couldn't read them, but now Astralis have got a very good read on towards Mirage. Swing will come through, Glaive gonna find the opener, and he falls away unscathed. Farleg's all bounces for one more as well. He's still not being pushed off the angle, he can park up. Zip next to add to the tally. The Orb still causing problems. Will be traded, but it's only for one. 4 men alive, 9-2.
Yeah, this is the Astralis that we've been expecting to see, right? Yesterday even, they looked really shaky in their matchup, but this dominant performance, this is what we know and love from this team. Even, you know, with Los Kogutos trying to swap up some of their playstyle, they try a couple of aggressive takes, they try some more slow takes, they even tried a solid flank to try and come in through mid, and no matter what they do, Astralis have the map so on lock that it doesn't matter what they're attempting to do. And then, of course, you have the fact that the players themselves really seem to be online, right? They're not really missing those shots. We talk about this, obviously, it's a shooter. That's the S in FPS, if you weren't aware. So you need to be able to hit those shots. And whereas Astralis seemed to be kind of struggling yesterday, and, you know, even against OG, which of course is a very, very high caliber team, so it becomes a little bit more than just being able to hit those shots. But I suppose the warm-up really worked in their favor because they're looking really crisp now. So you add that onto the fact that they have such a good command of this entire map, and Los Kogutos just look, well, lost. I think we've redefined the loss in Los Kogutos.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's really not looking great, to be perfectly honest, so far for them. In towards around on 12, but it's just a single Galil. It's all that Crash have to work with. Tech 9 finds some space, damage, and a kill, in fact. Blame F gonna fall to the hands of Enzo. Nade will come in. Slight bit of damage towards Krasnov, but for the most part, this is actually looking a lot better. Farleg gonna take a step away, gonna try and find a little bit of distance. He doesn't want to take too much of a fight, especially now they've lost connected control. He knows he's in a bit of a precarious spot. Config will set as well. The double up setup still in play. As Zip next comes alive, so one. Flashbang as well will come out. Bit of space on towards the side. Zip's gonna fall to that back 10, but he's traded out by Config, who's causing problems before he himself is dropped by the hands of Mary. Orbs are causing issues, and Farleg needs to cause one more, holding into his back pillar. Bomb's still trying to get down. It is dropped, though. And Farleg all alone, this might just be a save call.
Possibly, maybe just a reposition? Because obviously an AWP in this particular fight isn't really going to end well. So, yeah, okay, could just be the save. Maybe get an exit if somebody tries to run out. But I like this approach from Los Kogutos as well. No, he hasn't given up just yet. See if he can spot in his crosshairs. Oh, okay.
No, he's got the right idea. He's trying to get a rifle here. He knows that at least one's low. They knew the damage was dealt. Question of can he find the kill? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And of course, I guess the other side is they won't be able to pick up an orb to save in towards it. Oh, they will, in fact. There was actually one, the second one, of course, that was down to blame after I dropped them to a short. Los Kogutos, do find a third. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, a valiant attempt there towards the end to try and clutch out those last 2 kills, but it was always going to be a difficult ask at the end of the day there. Yeah, so Los Kogutos try and bring themselves back into this game. There's still an opportunity to make it happen. They have finally picked up the orb for themselves. Oh, missed shot, and the second attempt fails as well. And that opens up so much space for this mid push.
That's unfortunate. We've seen at times as well what Los Kogutos can do with a big green in their hands. Not going to be the case here, though. Enzo going to wield it. Half HP, or just over. 3 remain alive for Los Kogutos. 2 muted. 1 being Enzo. There's 9-3 on the scoreline. 13 rounds played, and Astralis are already... They're knocking on the door of double digits here. It's getting to a concerning state where this is already starting to get away from Los Kogutos. And a complete... different performance to what we saw in Ancient. In towards that third qualifier. It was one-sided. 16-8 that one finished. Blackbird going to find himself one. Of course, muted name. It doesn't matter. Glaive the 4. Farleg got a little gap to work with in the smoke. Bomb will still be able to go down. And now Los Kogutos have got a chance to set up a post plant in a 3 versus 4. And they're going to fall over towards ramp.
Advantages still for Astralis, so very, very doable, but this post plant is quite strong. Enzo taking a little bit more of an aggressive stance here, managing to get a couple for himself. But there you go, Astralis not able to bring it back. A solid post plant from Los Kogutos, and that's one of the better post plants they've had. Usually, you know, Astralis, I was kind of saying this a little bit earlier, they maintain the map quite well. They have a really good retake setup. Los Kogutos, it's taken them a while, but they're starting to get a feel for how Astralis play this map.
At the very least, on the T side, they're putting up somewhat of a fight. They're kind of starting to show what they can bring to the server for Astralis. So they've already put up such a strong performance on CT that it is a concerning state. The buy-in towards the penultimate round of the half is minimal. For Astralis, an MP9 in play, a Scout, a couple of the Eagles and a P250. I can't expect too much. There's Zip to pull off something special, and there it is. Mary on 4, the Eagle looking for something. Damage dealt, not going to be able to find the frag. Farlex P250 to answer for a trade-on towards Krasnell, and through the smoke blame F artist one more. It's Los Kogutos down to 2. The numbers looking so great for Astralis.
No way.
And Zip Nexus Scout is causing even further problems. It's double for him before he's finally dropped, and with 1 remaining alive. Los Kogutos have got so much to do. So little to work with in a 1 versus 3. And for Astralis, they can spray time. They know they've got a minute to work with. They know he's not going to be able to get a bomb down because they've got all 3 players posted up, ready and waiting. This should be very comfortable. And it's the MP9 of Glaive to see this one out.
Nice little, don't know if you'd call it an eco. Astralis came in with a bit of a half buy there. It wasn't perfect, and they still managed to come out on top of it quite handedly. And this is a mistake that I see a lot of teams make. You come into something, you know you're on an anti-eco, and you're kind of expecting to have the upper hand. You tend to make quite a few mistakes, and again, team like Astralis, they're going to punish that. The other thing that I've also noticed is obviously when you're on a weaker buy, sometimes you start to do some weird things that the enemy team isn't going to expect because you're not really expecting to win the round anyway. Works out quite nicely for Astralis, get themselves to double digits, lock down that mid area, lock down the B sides. Oh, dearie me.
Krasnell's going to find himself one. Blame's going to fall. At the very least, they're making something of this, but it's done. Mary's all alone. Low HP and Blame for making a double to close things out. 11-4 at the half. Got to say, looking so far, so good. If you're an Astralis fan, you have no complaints about how this has been going, to be perfectly honest. It's such a dominant CT side performance. I mean, know what Astralis can bring on their T side. As things stand for Los Kogutos, it's a polar opposite performance to what we saw on Ancient in that 3rd qualifier. And to mention as well, when Astralis are coming off the back of a loss earlier today, you'd potentially expect them to mentally be, you know, a little bit out there, you know, trying to kind of recover, you know, in terms of their morale because of that tough loss earlier. But no, they're looking great.
Yeah, I think that so they lose out in the Blast game, and yeah, the Blast game is important, obviously. All officials are. But this one obviously has slightly more weight to it. In Blast, they're still going to have another opportunity. They're in that kind of lower bracket, so they do have a chance to keep themselves in that tournament. Whereas here, this is potential qualifying for a major. This is, you know, last chance saloon. It's the very last qualifier. So this is where the most important thing is going to happen. They get a nice warm-up in Blast. They play against OG, and it's like they take them really close. You come into this matchup, and you're like, this is an OG. There's some chickens, you know, like they've got this handled.
Yeah.
So they're doing really well here. I think they've managed to really kind of bring back that mental far stronger than maybe a lot of people would have expected. I know there's a lot of people in chat thinking that Los Kogutos are going to come through with the repeat victory here, but it looks like Astralis not willing to let that happen.
No, I mean, so far, so good. There's no complaints for your Astralis, and I think as well, this for Astralis is a bit of a statement that kind of that previous game was a fluke. There was a lot of question marks asked over towards Astralis off the back of kind of their first 3 attempts, essentially, of kind of how these RMRs went. They were tough. I mean, they were losing against teams that on paper they never should lose to. They were struggling against teams that, you know, a lot of people wouldn't even have heard about, may I say, you know, mixers or kind of a couple of ESA advanced teams, for example. So for Astralis, there was those question marks. It kind of shows as well how brutal these best of 1 open quals can be, where it's, you know, best of 1 single elim, very, very tough to keep up that consistency. Thankfully, though, Astralis in towards that 4th qualifier. They're now not here to play. There's a statement being made with that first half, 11-4. They've now got to continue it on towards their T side.
Yeah, honestly, these open qualifiers are a very different beast. And also bearing in mind, of course, with it being best of 1s, you don't really have any sort of a fail-safe, right? A fallback net. The best of 3s are only starting after the next game. So everything is still very, very difficult. Nobody saw that, dude. Don't even worry about it.
Great smoke from Farlig. Really, just locking off jungle. Palace message just in case they flank. So, Glaive will drop on towards site. Backside, in fact, a bit of a space to work with. Swinging out, Zip's gonna fall. Staying alive, he's gonna find Config too. Mutant name does not matter, it's a three-piece. As Farley is gonna fall, leaving it all down to one man, and Blame F cannot find a thing. It's a flawless round for Los Kogutos, and hey, on the CT side, they needed to kickstart something, and it worked. And of course, what we're seeing here is a little bit of Zonic's Law playing, and you know, it was 11-4 at the half, and well, already Los Kogutos are gonna find their CT side first pistol round.
CT-sided map. Yeah, I mean, pistol rounds tend to be a little bit of a coin flip, right? There's so many factors that go into it, and it does tend to be quite chaotic. So, yeah, okay, it can generally go either way. The thing that makes this so difficult now is, of course, with Astralis not having been able to plant, they find themselves in a similar situation to Los Kogutos in the first half, where they got nothing. And Los Kogutos, I mean, they have bought in heavily here. They have gone balls to the walls with their buy. They're expecting to come out on top of this round. And if they don't, next round could be a bit rough.
Smoke will come through. It is very, very slow for the time being. And now for Astralis, we've seen this before. It's all about sort of trying to prioritize getting that bomb down, trying to prioritize using, having a little bit of a long-term economy to work with. So far, slightly unlikely, as you mentioned, with the pretty minimal buy we see here. I mean, for Astralis, it is just a couple of pistols coming through. It is just for them kind of very limited, and now, of course, no utility, no armor. This should only go one way. Los Kogutos, I think it's a case in time about them just needing to see this one out. Crossfire sets up in towards mid. It's a really comfortable one as well. They know they're going to win these battles at range. Enzo posted up, spots the first, looking for a second as well. As Krastel's going to come in for support. Sclave will fall. Farley going to follow suit, in fact, and it's Krastel to see things out. Back-to-back flawless rounds for Los Kogutos. 6 on the board. They're catching up. They're chipping away at this deficit.
Well, slightly risky, but the reward well worth, as we mentioned. Slowly starting to close that gap. Only a 5-round deficit now. We say only, but it was a 7-round deficit. So definitely some big improvements here. This is where things could start to get a little dicey, though. Of course, this is going to be Astralis' first buy. A little lacking on the util side, no doubt. Let's see if Los Kogutos, if it's going to be enough for them to kind of stem the tide a little bit. Yeah, of course, they've still held on to the one from us, so it's not a full loadout. It's not a perfect loadout. It is essentially a bit of a bonus here. So slight deficit in that regard. Astralis taking a very slow approach here. Try and bait out some of that util where possible. Get that early info. Figure out where you want to head to. Nice. Get an early pick. We take those.
They're going to find the first. On the T side of Astralis now, of course, we see what they're like with a man advantage. They desperately needed to kickstart a bit of momentum early doors. Config's playing a bit of anti for the time being. Nothing really in terms of a decision being made here by Astralis, and they don't need to. A minute left on the clock. They've got an opening kill. They know as well that Los Kogutos is not going to have an AWP in play, so for them, they don't need to be too cautious of the range battles. Blame F will take a little bit of damage to the nade. But as things stand, so far, so slow. Astralis looking like they want to commit over towards that B site. It's a correct call as well. There's only one player there to meet them and greet them. This should only go one way. Play for the trades. Play for the numbers advantage, and they're going for that hit. Krastel in towards backside. Has to come up with a worldie. There's one, but he's traded immediately by the hands of Farley. This is already looking very good for Astralis to find 12. The bomb needs to go down. Glaive got to answer for one of the servers, four down to just one man, one rooster. Over towards the CT side, who can only deliver for a kill of his own. For Astralis, they double round advantage once again.
Really, really good read there from Astralis, right? As you mentioned, heading over towards the B site, Los Kogutos had kind of started to rotate a little too early towards A. Then some of the util comes out. They realize, oh, we're going the wrong direction. They try to send a flank up through mid, but obviously with Config waiting there, he manages to get that kill, shuts down any hopes of that working out. By the time Los Kogutos' reinforcements make it to the B site, it's too late. Astralis have control. Now, instead of the slow take that we'd seen a little bit earlier on, we're actually seeing Los Kogutos take a slightly more aggressive stance here, and they lose a ton of HP for their bravery, shall we say.
For Farley, It's a slow tempo of Astralis. I think, yeah, as you mentioned, you see Los Kogutos go for quite an aggressive buy here in terms of how their economy was shaped up, which is a little bit dicey. You see kind of that triple rifle coming through. You got the MP9 to support as well. Even utility is slightly loose on the side of the CT. So for them, they know they're in a very dire position where they need to find that man advantage early doors. They need to find just a bit of success to at least kickstart some momentum. Smoking towards window or deny that presence. Molly will come through into a short too. This might even be that split A coming through. We see one player sending the fake in towards that B app's position. And in fact, Zip could find some time in the lurk. They're going towards short. There's one player here to meet them. And Farlig walks right into the guillotine. Config gonna fall as well. All ready for Astralis. They are down 2-3. Make that 2 as Glaive. It's good night. Zip next and Blame F. Left all alone in a 2 versus 4. And for Los Kogutos, this could be the 7th calling.
A little bit of a misplay there from Astralis. They get a lot of early chip damage from this aggressive stance from Los Kogutos. And to be fair, I think it was a pretty interesting strat from Los Kogutos if it was indeed the intended strat. So take a slightly more aggressive stance early on and then just pull back and let Astralis stew in their own neuroticism. They slow down the tempo way too much. Los Kogutos start to take control of the map. And of course, it helps that you're able to shut down like 3 people trying to make their way over towards B. Do a really good job there, mow them down, get bomb out of the way. And there you go. Astralis they're forced to save by the end of that round. So if that was indeed the play, I tip my hat off. Not too sure if I believe it, but it sounds pretty cool. Now Astralis, of course, is going to be in a little bit of a tight spot. They do obviously have a little bit of loss streak going for them, but the resurgence from Los Kogutos has been so good. Astralis probably starting to feel the pressure now.
What pulls will come through? I think for Astralis, for them, it's about trying to just deny any momentum being built up. I think you've got to be slightly cautious when you look towards Los Kogutos. Being one of those sides that are definitely in that kind of puggy nature, there's a real opportunity and a pathway, essentially, for this Los Kogutos side to build momentum early doors, get a snowball effect in play, and, well, unfortunately, kind of chip away that deficit. If you are an Astralis fan, they do need to be careful. But so far, this is already significantly better than the last time out against Los Kogutos. And I think, thankfully, as well, we saw that Astralis go for that ancient band coming through. For them, it hasn't been the strongest of maps in recent times. So, smart for them. They insta-banned it early doors. Either way, towards round number 5 of this second half. 12-7 in favour of Astralis. They got a 5-round lead. So at least they've still got that kind of gap that they can just keep an arm's distance away. Couple of ecos and that one gets dicey. Quite an investment for Astralis in towards this round. That double AK setup. Deagle, Tech9 and P250 support. The big question mark for me is they're quite lacking amount of utility.
Yeah, I mean, we knew coming into this round that Astralis weren't going to have much to spend. And the smart thing to do is just not spend so that you got something going for you into the next. Mary, caught in a bit of a tough spot here, is able to actually make the cross. Of course, now they know where he is. Is it going to be enough as the first player of Astralis will fall?
Cyclone, at least, can open things up. Zip will find a trade, though. Now numbers kept at least level. Only one rifle in play. As config falls, it's just Zip next. His AK-47 has got anything to work with. The Deagle just shot a glaive. Brilliant. Gives a lifeline to Astralis as numbers brought level once further. 3 versus 3. And that bomb maneuvering over towards that B side. We only see one player posted up. That rotation coming through as they're going to double stack this. Los Kogutos, they got the right call. Mary might take the initial point of contact. Actually jumping in towards that. That's a risky jump, and he's going to fall back towards bench. Doesn't want to take this fight. Zip trying to clear backside. One in towards jail. Trying to at least deny them jumping out a window. And they know Astralis, they can't afford to give this one. They can't afford to make this happen. Swinging out. Glaive falls. A Zip and Farley left all alone. They've got maybe just enough time to plant over towards A, but even that's going to be difficult. As a foot race. And Mary. Krasnal. We'll find a double to see things out. Mary was rotating towards CT anyway, so he would have denied that round. Regardless, he had the foot race. He'd already won it out. They wouldn't have got the bomb down. Krasnal will find those 2 remaining from short. As Los Kogutos, they get 2 within 4.
Slowly making their way up to Astralis' scoreline. And if I'm Astralis right now, I'm not happy, right? I mean, this must be incredibly stressful. They started out the first half really strong, managed to get themselves a massive lead at the half, 11-4. And so far on their T side, they've only managed to win 1 round. Starting to kind of look a little bit lost here as Los Kogutos seem to also have a really good understanding of this map, but Glaive will open things up a little bit here. That man advantage could be everything.
Endo, they're bringing numbers level once again. Zipne's taking an initial point of damage. Endo as well, not exactly full HP. Tempo has come to a bit of a hole. Zip over towards Chair. I think he's ever so slightly cautious over towards Shore. For Los Kogutos, there's no AWP in play. Doesn't have to be too concerned. Farlig's only gone for a deagle too. Economy is a little bit dicey over towards that C side. Hence why they got that mixed buy. U2 will come forward. Window smoked. Swinging to come forwards as well. Enzo, ever so slightly risky. I think it's safe to say there. For the time being though. Much slower. Noise has been made over towards short. Krasno gonna be good for 1. Looking for a second, makes it a 3rd as well. Farling and Config follow suit. Blame does find himself 1, but he's all alone now. Needs a quad clutch to his name to find Astralis up to 13. And Los Kogutos, they are knocking on the door of 9 rounds. They are so close to at least giving this and making an attempt at turning this game back around. Astralis, this job is not done yet.
Oh, man. Give themselves the man advantage, start to flounder a little bit, lose bomb in a terrible place. Almost unrecoverable. Well, at this point, definitely unrecoverable. Astralis start to flounder a little bit here, given what their cash is looking like at the moment. I'm not too sure how they start to bring this one back. It feels like Los Kogutos really have a good read on them, and I think that this is something we don't really talk about terribly often with these games, right? So if you are a Los Kogutos, how many times have you seen Astralis play, right? How many matches, how many majors, how many huge events have you seen Astralis compete in? You've seen everything that they're going to bring to the table. How many times has Astralis watched the Los Kogutos? Now, you think that maybe that shouldn't be too much of a difference. This is essentially a tier 1 team, but sometimes a team can throw something out there that you're 100% not expecting. And it seems like Los Kogutos just has Astralis' number.
Tech9's come out. Quick hit's gonna come forward. A hero buy here for Blame F. He has to find some success. Tech9 support. The P250 are falling. He's trying to at least have a little bit of economy to work with to potentially pick up an AWP. For now, though, damage dealt. This bomb's gonna struggle to get down for sure. Config's gonna fall as well. Not exactly the dream start. Glaive gonna follow suit. Farlig down and out for the count. Zip will find himself 1 before he's traded. As Blame F's rifle was the only thing left in play. And sound cues may have been heard. Nade will come in. Re-smoking towards top con. They know exactly where Blame is. They've got his number. The bomb dropped. This round's done. For Los Kogutos, they are up to 10 rounds now with what I'm assuming is going to be a kill momentarily. 1 versus 4. To throw this would be monumental. But I think it's safe to say that this should be that CT 10th round.
I think we may have just lost a player. Might have been a slight disconnect there. Unless I'm going nuts. Ah, unlucky. We definitely lost that player. Oopsie. Okay, so it looks like we might have a slight tech issue here. I'm going to wait to see if he can reconnect. But in the meantime, Astralis having a rough time of it. Down to a 2-point deficit for Los Kogutos. And okay, so this has nothing to do with the game at hand, but I was kind of hoping we'd go to Inferno because of the chickens. I felt like there would be a congruency there that would be really cool. So I'm a little disappointed, not gonna lie. Yeah.
For Los Kogutos as well, I mean, this was, I think in terms of the maps that they wanted to go to, of course, we saw Ancient be a real strong point. Smart that Astralis go for the insta-ban of it. I think that's just, that's a no-brainer, no questions asked. But when you look towards Los Kogutos' map pick, I mean, you look towards kind of their strengths, you look towards kind of, for the most part, the kind of the puggier maps, aside from that insta-ban of Inferno, the puggier maps for them have been pretty successful. I mean, we've seen them play a little bit of Dust 2. Mirage is statistically one of their greatest maps. They've played it 10 times, won 8 of them. So generally speaking as well, we've seen them kind of benefit when it comes to mechanical prowess. The only thing is that now this is then Los Kogutos, who are kind of a tier 2, tier 3 side against Astralis, who are tier 1, top 10, arguably seen as one of the best sides to have ever played CSGO. Now, Config towards top mid. Already starts to run off with a brutal amount of damage as he's down to 36 points of HP into towards Delphi and just about staying alive. Even that's a tall order too. Farlig. It's about trying to keep his teammate alive. To be perfectly honest, he has to prioritize Config being able to get away safely, and that's going to be easier said than done. Smoke will dissipate. Astralis. A full buy-in here, but a loss into this round, giving up 11 towards Los Kogutos. Their economy breaks too, and it's a real good opportunity for the CT side to not only tie this game up, but potentially take it one further. Blame F. Towards under, a little bit of presence. Nothing to be found. The bomb potentially tempted to make his way towards B. They've had slight bits of success there, but it's a different sort of buy now.
Astralis take a lot of early damage there. I was a little bit concerned as to how that was going to pan out. And you can see them here again trying to take some of that map control, but look how Los Kogutos are kind of circling in around them. And now it doesn't matter where Astralis tried to push into, somebody is going to be waiting for them. They've given a lot of time over. Now his bomb's still kind of chilling in mid. That's it. Oh, that's rough. I mean, they give way too much time for Los Kogutos to gain control.
Molly Folly into a short. Blame F spamming through. Enzo just about staying alive. That's enough. Mary gonna answer with one more. As Glaive falls, this becomes a really uncomfortable situation. Blame out for the count. The two remaining alive for Astralis. He had a bomb down here. It's going to be something special. Low on HP, so we get close, but Mary doesn't clear it properly. Folly just about staying alive, and not for much longer. He spammed through the box. A Zip is all alone. The economy on the brink of failure. And a Zip falls for Astralis. No bomb plant. 4 remain alive for Los Kogutos. This forces them into a horrible buy-in towards the next round.
What is happening? This whole half has just been so weird. You would think that Astralis would have a better control of what's going on here, but they keep giving space over to Los Kogutos. They keep allowing Los Kogutos to push out and kind of like stop any, I want to say like flanking around and like closing off choke points, gaining control of the map. I mean, I say that so often, but map control, man, it's so important. And so Astralis just take this like really, really hesitant, slow position. And as Kogutos know that if they apply just that little bit of pressure, Astralis apparently are going to crack under the weight. I mean, this is incredibly unexpected from Astralis, and I'm not too sure why they're struggling so much here. It really does feel like, I don't know, man. It feels like they haven't played a T-side Mirage in a long time.
Wasn't it? Bit of presence already. Need to be slightly careful here. The CT side, Los Kogutos, I don't think they realize how close Astralis in fact are. Config tucked up personal. This is a freebie. Config with a Mac 10 already aggressive connected controllers, giving them some success. Now, for the time being, Astralis are making somewhat of a nothing buy work in their favor, which is not exactly what I expected on my side for Glaive. Here in a much more better position than I initially expected them to be. Blame F's made way towards the I don't think it's being expected, and Blame F's Eagle comes alive. Astralis are making a nothing buy work in their favor. More or less a half investment, sticking around that 2k mark. Blame F, the hero AK now, got even more firepower than initially anticipated, initially expected coming into this sort of round. So far, so good for Enzo, Mary, and Krasnal. The 3 remaining alive for Los Kogutos. This should have been a free round for them. And they're now at a 2-man disadvantage.
No shot Astralis are about to eco. They've managed to pick up an AK for themselves, so there's a little bit of that extra firepower. The B side is relatively unguarded, but there is a lurk coming in here, as we see from Mary. Is he going to be able to win out this 1v1? Yes, he is. And that's going to slowly start bringing things back in favor of Los Kogutos. I'll be real, I was a little bit worried about these chickens.
MF, gonna drop on Enzo. It's still numbers in favor of Astralis. It's definitely still a possibility. Towards backside though, Krasnal comes alive. Tech 9 pulled out, but that's all he's got to work with alongside the M4 when S in a 1 versus 2. This requires something special. And if Blame F post up as well, this crossfire's brilliant. He won't be able to turn towards the side. The information, they know he's towards stairs. And Astralis have turned a nothing buy, what is more or less a half buy, sticking about that 2k mark into a round in their favor, and they're up to 13.
No shot. I mean, so this is what I was saying a little bit earlier on, where very often teams that are on an eco will start to do some surprising things, right? To try and catch an enemy team off their guard a little bit, and it feels kind of that's what Astralis were doing. And it's not the first time Astralis have echoed Los Kogutos. Yes, Twitch chat. Sorry, I have an accent. It's not the first time that we've seen that, but hey, I mean, if it works, it works. They've brought the lead back up to 2 rounds. Farlig's got that AWP in his hands once again. Gonna have to contend here with Enzo. Getting closer and closer to a potential overtime. But looking at the cash, I mean, both teams in a bit of a dire situation here. Neither have really been able to build up any sort of a long-term econ.
That's the big thing. I think that no long-term economy in play is a really kind of a uncomfortable situation where for Los Kogutos, they should be more or less have this game tied up, if not even a lead in their favor. And a couple of rookie errors have provided to be so costly. Hang on a second, though. Enzo snuck his way through Palace. Zipnek's going to find the first. But with Enzo's information, Glaive could fall, but he seems to be expecting it. He's got a decent idea. The AWP holding. Will he find? Of course he will. Glaive to fall. Had the numbers brought back in their favor. And of course, with the HP not looking too pretty over towards Zipnek, it's a real good opportunity for the CT side to cause some more further problems over towards the Danes. This is not exactly the round they would have been expecting as Farley going to drop out for the count. Numbers back in favor of Los Kogutos, and now so's the HP.
This is just another round where Astralis give up so much of the space. Look at this map control. Los Kogutos have pushed out so far, and once again, no matter where Astralis goes, someone is going to find them. Now, Config will even out the numbers a little bit here, but the HP is still very much advantage to Los Kogutos because they're so far away. This rotation has to be quick.
We're going to come through. Config and Zip next one apiece. Leaves Enzo all alone. This is a save, surely. I can't see him making any attempt here, and he's not going to fall away. Going to give up the round. Astralis up to 14. They are so close now to... well, seeing this one out and really being into that uncomfortable state where for Los Kogutos, I can see them having one essentially buy left in them, and that's to play for probably what is going to be OT. It is an awful, uncomfortable situation where for Los Kogutos, they've let this one slip away from themselves despite being on the more favourable CT side.
Well, feels like Astralis may have kind of pulled themselves towards themselves a little bit there. Seems like they're starting to capitalize on some of those small misplays that Los Kogutos are making. You know, one of the things that I mentioned was how Astralis take a little too long to actually get in onto the site, so they allow a lot of time for Los Kogutos to get into a solid position. This time around, however, they get onto the B site where there's only one player. They realize there's only one player. They pick up the pace so that those few reinforcements that still have to make their way in are not able to get there in time to actually reinforce anything. So they're able to take advantage. This is what we need to see more from Astralis here. More decisiveness. They've seemed very hesitant, very unsure of what plays they're going to be making. And Los Kogutos have been doing really well at taking advantage of it. Now, however, Astralis, one round away from match point. And if Los Kogutos lose this round, their economy is in the toilet.
Well, this game's done. If Los Kogutos lose this round, the game is over. Astralis complete this one because they haven't got anything to work with. They don't realize how dicey things are getting. Blame, though, onto his tally. Needed a little bit. It's been at times, a couple of individuals really stepping up for Astralis, causing a couple of issues, or causing the majority of the issues. Frenzo, he opened things up with the AWP, and now look where things stand. Hang on a second, Enzo's got him behind. Enzo could cause an issue here. He's got the information. He'll hear them rotating away. This should be a freebie. They know they're going towards A. The gamble stack can come through. He's heard them fall back. Enzo single-handedly might have caused all the problems. Mary with the AWP, he's posted up, holding and waiting. This has to be a committal play. And look, the CT side, they've reacted quickly. They know. They're going for the A hit here. Enzo with one play towards under has caused a lot of problems. The question is, can they find it in their favor? That is the big answer. In towards back triple. Posted up. Enzo in behind. He's still causing problems with the flank. Enzo could be the decider. He could be the Undertaker in this round as Glaive's going to fall. Zip will find himself one at the very least. Numbers still kept level, but they line up for two. He's looking for three. The information spotted and Adel comes through. Doesn't quite find the target, but it's Krasnal to see things out. Los Kogutos. The Roosters keep the dream alive.
Again, Astralis takes so long to decide anything. They allow a flank to come through. And to be fair, I always talk about you need to have someone that's on flank watch, but it hasn't been a huge pattern for Los Kogutos to send someone out on a wild flanking mission. So you're not necessarily looking out for it. But again, it's Astralis failing to be decisive. And because of that, Los Kogutos can capitalize and get those all-important kills. That was a round that Astralis kind of needed to win to solidify themselves the win here. But okay, getting into this round, managing to get 2 kills for themselves, and might still be doable.
Oh, Enzo, hang on a second. Enzo and the AWP's come alive like Geralt of Rivia. He's causing a couple of issues like his PFP. Glaven towards backside. Did he spot the information? It's a question of can he find the kill. Mary dancing around back pillar, trying to find an entry, but Glave's got his number. He's read into him. Numbers all back in favor of Astralis the Danes, hunting for 15. With the 2 remaining for Los Kogutos, this becomes dire, and a missed shot might just confirm things here for Astralis up to 15. The AWP will be collected, but even falling away is going to be a big, big ask here. Up to 15 rounds, Astralis just one hurdle away from seeing out this game, and in the fabled rematch, this time winning.
Seems that way at the very least. Again, Los Kogutos, despite the fact that they managed to come out of on top of that round, the previous one, economy's still not great. So unfortunately now having lost this round, they no longer have any sort of a loss streak. I don't think they ever did on this half, to be fair. Which means that now they're going to have very, very little cash into the next round. And they have to force up, right? Match point, like, there is no waiting for the next round. You have to throw everything in the kitchen sink into this one. Astralis managed to build up pretty big econ buffer for themselves here. So, obviously, after winning that previous round, that helps as well. Tons of cash in the bag here. Tons of firepower available to them. Theoretically, this should be in the bag. However, we have seen Astralis lose some very winnable rounds, and I'm kind of on the Los Kogutos hype train. I'll be honest. I'd be keen to see them push this just that little bit further. You know, maybe make a meal out of it. But as it stands now, it's looking like this could be a one and done now.
It's looking done. It feels like it as well. I mean, for Los Kogutos, as we mentioned, for them, in this sort of situation where we've seen their economy already take a little bit of a tumble, they've had a pretty bad situation in terms of long-term stability. They've got a really uncomfortable buy into this next round. Double FAMAS, double MP9, 1 AWP in the hands of Enzo. Now, Enzo's been causing some significant problems, but it's the support around him, which is brutal. Force off the angle. Enzo re-peek in, looking for the first. Can't quite find it. Just about escapes the ult the first time, but not the second is falling. Answers. Probably shoved his own, looking for 2, damage dealt, not going to find the kill, but at the very least, he can have some security over one angle. Blame F going to answer for one more, ladies and gentlemen, this one's starting to look done.
Starting?
I think so.
Yeah.
Finally, one more. 2 remain alive. Sam, I feel like this one is on its last legs. Krasnal, Mary.
I have faith.
Hope and a prayer. Maybe not so much anymore. Mary, the last remaining alive tonight, a flawless round, and a 16th for Astralis, but not going to be the case. Astralis, in the fabled rematch, are able to see out the game against, of course, their